So if you could please just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about why you're here to talk to us today.
I'm Angie Gheesling. I am employed by the Milledgeville-Baldwin County Development Authority. I've been in that job for 5.5 years. I am a native of Milledgeville, and I'm not here to speak on behalf of my board or the authority per se. However, I am an agency that has benefited from past SPLOST and hopefully from future SPLOST.
All right. Well, can you please just talk about the ways that you feel past SPLOSTs have either positively or negatively impacted the Milledgeville-Baldwin County community, and why do you feel that they have done that?
I can't think of any ways that the SPLOST would have negatively impacted the community, but of course the great thing about SPLOST projects is once the project's completed, it's usually evident to everyone. Unless it's an actual infrastructure in the ground type project, you don't always know that these have occurred. But I think that overall they're quite positive, and you'll find that many times it's hard to find a way that these projects don't benefit a majority of the community, and they span anywhere from true infrastructure projects to things such as the soccer field that all children and adults, a lot of people use the walking track there, and the high schools have also been able to benefit from that. Number one, as a great project that we've had here, our courthouse. If you knew anything about the old courthouse, and I happened to live here at the time that we did use that, you could see over time there was definitely a need for an upgrade. So that's another great example, and a lot of agencies utilize that building. In fact, the building was full to capacity, I think, the minute that they opened the doors. For the Development Authority, we use it in the industrial park, and many times, even though we do have a fully served park per se with water and sewer lines and gas lines that run throughout, many times we have a situation where a new company locates, such as Rath Refractories, and they needed a gas line run from where it stopped all the way to their facilities. So many times we are able to utilize SPLOST to actually seal the deal, so to speak, with a prospect. Another example of SPLOST funds in the park was to grade an area to prepare for a company to locate. We have a spec building now, not built with SPLOST funds, but there were other ways SPLOST funds were used on the property, and what we found is that companies are ready to locate quickly, and many times the spec building will bring a prospect to town, but they actually will want to turn and build their own building, and that's why there was a need for this graded area in the park. So I think that, again, it's very easy to look around and see where these projects have greatly benefited this community.
Right. Now, as the community looks towards this upcoming SPLOST referendum, what are the issues that you feel should be the topics of conversations, and why should people be talking about those things?
I hope that people will take the time to educate themselves on what the SPLOST is really all about. I think people hear tax, and sometimes that's the focus. And so I hope that people will, number one, ask questions about what these upcoming projects are, and learn that there are some projects, such as our jail and a couple of projects we're going to see with for instance, our landfill and with the communication system, that's going to be needed, that are actually mandated. And so if we don't utilize what is really probably the fairest way that we can collect tax in this community, then we're going to have to find other sources of revenue to complete these projects. So again, I think it's just really important to ask these questions of the people that have this knowledge and can explain the importance of, and in turn, what will we do to complete these projects if we're not able to pass this next SPLOST.
Okay. And this kind of picks up on that. If there was one priority that could be addressed with the use of SPLOST revenues at this time and in the future, what would you say that priority is or should be, and why?
Well, there are going to be a couple of priorities, and again, I've already mentioned them, and one is going to be this upgraded communication system to use for emergency personnel and law enforcement, and then another is going to be our landfill. And both of these are going to have to be addressed quickly. And in just my years in watching the SPLOST and the way the funds flow, we find that many times we've got situations just like in our own home where an appliance breaks down. We didn't anticipate that expense, but we hope we've squirreled away some money so that we can take care of that. And really, SPLOST can give us some comfort going forward when we do have those type of emergencies arise, and they will. And again, SPLOST is very specific about its use. So it's going to have to fall within the guidelines and the law. So I think that we just have to trust people that are in charge of actually divvying out the SPLOST funds to know where they need to go. But we've got a list of priorities, so we all know what those are, and at some point in time, they will naturally move their way up the list.
All right. Now, given that SPLOST takes about 6 years to be collected and that our community does not use revenue anticipation bonds to initiate SPLOST-funded projects, how do you account for shifting priorities within the SPLOST proposal?
I think, again, kind of in the same example I used before, that there will come some necessary times that we do have to shift those priorities. Those of us who are in line to receive funds, such as myself or the Greenway Authority or even the Recreation Department, all understand that up front. Again, when you're talking about SPLOST and you're dependent upon people actually spending money in order to collect the SPLOST, and if the economy is good, then the money's coming in, and hopefully all projects are kind of simultaneously having access to funds that are needed. But at times there are going to be some projects, again, these emergency situations that may arise where we all recognize that the funds need to be used. But again, it's all within the guidelines of the law, and you can trust that the money's being used appropriately.
All right. Now, I think we're coming to one of the main questions. Why do you feel voters should or should not support this proposed SPLOST initiative? Well,
in past, even in the time that I've worked in other communities throughout the state where I've seen SPLOST as kind of a hot topic, and I've seen where the SPLOST did not pass, and normally what you see as an after effect are that the hardships fall back on the people. There's really no other avenue to go to get these necessary, especially infrastructure items completed, or mandated items such as what we've just experienced with the jail completed. So it's in my opinion, it's the fairest way that we can collect revenues to do the things that do benefit all of us, keep our community in a state that we can all be proud of, and such as, again, the visible signs of past projects with SPLOST. And when you think about, for Milledgeville, we've always been a shopping hub for at least 4 or 5 other counties. And so if you ever survey the parking lot at a Walmart or even at our grocery stores, you're going to find many times just as many out-of-town tags as you see that are in town. So actually we're benefiting because we do have such a large service sector here that people are assisting us actually to go forward with these projects.
Right. Now, of course, those are all the questions that I have for you today, but I'd just like to allow you this time to either emphasize any of the things you talked about or mention any of the things you feel were not covered by the questions.
Personally, my concern is, just especially with our present state of the economy, is that if we don't continue the SPLOST, I worry where we will be able to pull funds from. I know what the revenue situation looks like for our city and our county and the authority. And without this, I just really cannot even anticipate what the future would look like for us and the hardships that would come about without taking this tax forward.